Hello everybody, Sam here. Today we're going to talk about content management first test driven development using Umbraco and XPEDITE. What is CMS first TDD? Test driven development is a software development process where you write tests before you write the code. Part of test creation is specifying some input test data. So why not use a CMS for that? How does XPEDITE help with CMS first test-driven development? First, you need to gather your requirements. You can then create your content types in the CMS to fulfill those. After that, you create the content using these content types in the content management system. XPEDITE then automatically generates components and test data from those items. You can then update these test files with the specific assertions based on your requirements. You then update all your components in the generated files until they pass all the tests. If your requirements change, or if you need a new component, then you can just start the process all over again. Let's generate some code. In this example, we're going to create a partial. So we go to the partial page, and now we need to choose a content type. Let's click on a page, most basic type. We can see here we've got all the fields selected. And if we click on the test, we will see that all 4 of those appear in the test data, as well as 2 basic stubs for tests. We can also click the Include Generic Page Data button, which includes page level data as well as the properties. This is all well and good, but best practice would suggest that we should use compositions instead of page level data so we can share this between pages. So instead of choosing the page, let's go and choose a composition. Specifically in this example, just the page title. Let's uncheck Include Generic Page Data and give the component a name. For example, page heading or page title will be fine. Now if we look at the generated tests, you'll see that there's no test data. This is because we're using a composition, we need to go and choose a page. Now you can use a page on your site, or you can ideally use your documentation page. Now when we look at the test, we have this data object with just the page title filled in with the value from the content item. You'll see that we have 2 files created, one with empty data and one with valid data. We can now apply these to the code base and start on the next step of the process. Now we need to update the tests. So I've gone into VS Code, and as you can see here, we have our component with the test files created. Here is the component generated by XPEDITE and the 2 test files. The first thing I do is format the document so that it adheres to your coding standards. Then, in this example, we want to create a test that makes sure that an H1 is on the page and includes the content in the page title field. You can see here we are using the test data that XPEDITE has generated. Now it's time to run the test for the first time. Now as you can see, we've got 1 failing test and 1 passing test. The failing test is failing because the component is not returning an H1 with the page title. By default, text fields are in spans in XPEDITE. Let's change it to an H1, go back to the tests and rerun them. Now you may be thinking that both were passed, but actually we fixed one test and broken the other, and this is because the snapshot doesn't match. There are a few ways to update your snapshots. Here we'll just hack it, put in the H1 so that we can move on. These snapshot tests are really useful to make sure that you don't introduce regression to your code. And now we have passing tests. And we can also run this empty test for completeness. This just passes in an empty state and makes sure that the component doesn't throw an exception. And we can see that one has passed too. These empty tests have saved me from null reference exceptions on many occasions. The tests are green, but we should probably test to see what this looks like in the browser. What we'll do is we'll add this new component to the page template, pass in the page title prop, save that file, and now we can run the project in dev mode. We can now switch to our headless website. We can go to page 1, and now we can see we have a page title included on the page as an H1. Templates and blocks work in a very similar way. A single page may have more than one block configured, so XPEDITE will create all the data and tests for each one you've included. Why not try CMS First TDD for yourself? You can install the XPEDITE starter kit from NuGet, and if you need any more help, check out samallens.co.uk.